Those who don't believe the Bible was properly inspired by an omniscient deity often find it necessary to rewrite and reinterpret the Scriptures in order to align them with modern scientific findings. Day 4 of the Genesis creation story saw the creation of the sun, the moon, stars, and planets. The narrative describes these heavenly bodies as having been placed in a solid firmament which surrounded the earth like a dome. This is clearly and plainly what Genesis reports. However, Andrew Parker, author of the Genesis Enigma, asserts that the fourth day of Genesis actually corresponds with the formation of the first eye. He claims the events of Genesis's Day 4 actually occurred about 521 million years ago, and that the day itself spanned if not millions of years, then hundreds of thousands. He says the creation of the sun, the moon, stars, and planets, and the placing of these in the firmament of heaven was actually the evolution of the first image-forming eye. The lights were then literally and metaphorically turned on for visual information and for animal behavior and evolution. As he writes, admitting error in the plain reading of the text, quote, "If the Scripture is not immediately obvious, we should turn our attention to the science. There was indeed an introduction of light somewhere in the evolutionary history of animals, and this was a monumental step that changed life forever. The first eye on earth effectively turned on the lights for animal behavior, and consequently for further rapid evolution, while providing accurate recognition of day and night. And the animals possessing these early eyes, according to Parker, would have been proto-trilobites and trilobites. However, the creation story of Genesis, no matter how loosely it is read, has not provided Parker with the material from which he can assemble an eye. Recall that the only life Genesis claims to have been present on earth before the sun and moon appear is plant life. Parker has assumed this plant life refers to early cyanobacteria, ignoring of course the clear context of Genesis in which grass, herbs, and fruit trees are specifically listed. Cyanobacteria did not possess any form of eye. Indeed, the evolution of the eye was an extremely gradual process. It did not happen overnight, or even within a day. The days of Genesis are very well established as literal 24-hour periods. And also, these animals Parker mentions teemed in the early seas, but Genesis has not yet mentioned the creation of life in the sea. Gerald Schroeder, author of The Science of God, has a different interpretation of the Genesis text, which is to be expected when one deviates from the narrative itself and tries to fashion a new context for the creation story. Obviously for Schroeder, like Parker and others, the original divinely inspired author of Genesis needs a great deal of help rewriting, altering, and updating the creation narrative for a sophisticated, modern, scientifically literate audience. For Schroeder, Day 4 did not involve the evolution of the first image-forming eye in proto-trilobites some 521 million years ago, but instead was the gradual transparency of the early Earth's atmosphere, creating conditions by which photosynthesis could occur and begin the oxygenation of that atmosphere, the days stretching from 1.75 billion years ago to 750 million years ago. Of course, the sun, moon, stars, and other planets had all existed for billions of years prior to this event, so the Genesis account of their creation on Day 4 is, in Schroeder's opinion, merely the Earth's atmosphere, clearing up enough for them to be seen. However, unlike Parker, Schroeder forgot to put anything on Earth during Day 4, which could have actually seen these heavenly bodies. He links them merely to photosynthesis, which relies solely on the sun, not on the moon, stars, and other planets. So apparently, the Genesis author's mention of these other heavenly bodies was just so much extraneous chatter in the text. Like everything in these modern reinterpretations, rewriting of the text, the plain context of Genesis needs to be twisted, distorted, and vandalized in order to try and fit, in some sort of semblance, the narrative of chapter 1 with the discoveries of science. Such convoluted readings merely reveal more of what Genesis got wrong.